Okay, so the ultimate cover story, right? It's got this master spy. He needs a family, like immediately, to stop a world war.
Right, and not just any family.
No, exactly. He adopts a little girl who happens to be a telepath.
A secret telepath, yeah.
And enters this, well, marriage of convenience with a genuinely deadly assassin.
Mm-hmm. The Thorn Princess. It sounds completely wild on the surface.
Totally wild. High concept espionage, straight out of a Cold War thriller. But I think what makes Spy X Family such a phenomenon isn't just the plot. It's how this massive strategic lie somehow becomes the path to, well, finding real emotional truth and even healing.
That's a perfect way to frame it, I think.
Yeah.
And today we're really digging into the source material to understand that foundational blueprint Operation Strix and how this pretty fantastical premise is actually meticulously grounded in, well, the historical reality and the psychological climate of the Cold War, particularly that 1960s paranoia.
Okay, let's unpack that then. We're going beyond just the surface plot here. Our sources dig into the mission's really detailed, almost you could say absurd requirements, and the direct real-life parallels. I mean, we're talking historical surveillance stuff that'll genuinely give you chills.
Oh, definitely.
And how this whole political setup acts as a kind of psychological crucible for identity. It's a found family story built on trauma, really. So our mission starts right at the top with the core objective.
Right. Operation Strix. The stakes couldn't be higher, basically. Preventing a huge war between Westalis, which is democratic, and Ostania, which is authoritarian. The mission's given to this brilliant Westalian master spy, Twilight, who works for an agency called WISE. His goal sounds simple, but it's incredibly difficult. Get close to Donovan Desmond.
Yeah, the leader of Ostania's National Unity Party. Super reclusive guy.
Extremely reclusive, and that's the problem. Desmond is paranoid. He's secluded. He only ever shows up publicly at these social events connected to his son's fancy school.
Which leads to phase one, right? The scramble. Twilight, now using the alias Lloyd Forger, pretending to be a psychiatrist, he gets exactly 1 week.
1 week.
To create this perfect, respectable, upper-class family from scratch.
Yeah, think about that pressure. Just 7 days to build a flawless, stable family unit that can pass this incredibly rigorous high society admissions interview for Eden Academy.
It's nuts.
It forces him to adopt Anya, who, happens to be this secret telepath who escaped from some experiment.
Right.
And then rush into this completely fake marriage with Yor Breyer, the city hall clerk, who Lloyd has no idea is actually the elite assassin, the Thorn Princess.
So the entire foundation for world peace rests on this strategic sham family.
Pretty much, yeah. And that brings us straight into the operational reality, phase 2, which is the educational infiltration.
Because Desmond only appears at Eden Academy events, Anya has to get in. And once she's admitted, the mission itself kind of gets gamified by the school?
Absolutely. Once she's in, the mission splits into 2 paths, both extremely high risk. Plan A is, well, the most direct route.
Anya has to become friends with Desmond's younger son, Damien.
Exactly. Hoping that connection somehow gives Lloyd the access he needs. But Plan B, the backup plan, is arguably much, much harder.
That's the Imperial Scholar thing, isn't it? Getting that title would grant Lloyd access to the most exclusive school gatherings where Desmond might be.
It is, and this is where the sources really highlight the immense pressure of the mission structure. Eden Academy operates on this super strict, almost militaristic system of merits and demerits.
Okay.
So Anya needs to collect 8 of these highly coveted Stella stars. That gets her the Imperial Scholar title, which is Plan B success. But there's always a but. The sword of Damocles hanging over everything is the Tonitrus bolt.
Ah, the dreaded Tonitrus bolt. I remember those.
If she accumulates 8 of those for bad grades, bad behavior, any kind of social slip-up, she faces immediate, irreversible expulsion. Which means the complete and utter failure of Operation Strix. Game over. So suddenly, a 6-year-old's stressful school life, with all its weird social cliques and intense homework, becomes the central battlefield of this Cold War.
The stakes are just astronomical, and they feel so real, partly because the world itself, Ostania, is designed to just amplify that tension, that paranoia. It's not just some generic bad guy nation. It's portrayed as this authoritarian state built on tyranny, the total opposite of Westalis.
And that political climate is deliberately oppressive. You know, the State Security Service, the SSS, everyone calls them the secret police. They're the main background antagonists. They're this formidable, ever-present counterintelligence agency whose whole job is crushing dissent and hunting spies like Lloyd.
The fear they inspire is just palpable in the story. And the SSS is such a direct, recognizable fictional version of the real historical East German secret police, the Stasi. They're basically the architects of this pervasive mistrust in Ostania.
That connection is absolutely key to understanding the society they live in. The Stasi, historically, perfected these techniques of psychological control using invasive surveillance. Ordinary citizens were basically pressured into keeping up this facade of unwavering conformity.
Yeah.
Not just out of loyalty, but out of sheer terror that, a neighbor or a coworker, maybe even someone in their own family, might be reporting on them.
It creates this society where everyone is constantly performing some kind of identity. And it makes perfect sense then why someone like Jorfel, a single woman past a certain age with a job that involves irregular hours, would feel she has to get a fake husband.
Right.
Just to avoid the official suspicion the SSS threw at anyone who didn't fit the state's rigid ideal. It's purely a survival mechanism for her.
It's basically psychological warfare waged on your own citizens. And this fragmentation of power, it runs even deeper than just the state police. We also learned about the Ostanian underworld, specifically Garden.
Yes, Garden. The shadowy group of elite assassins Yor works for. Tell us a bit more about them, because they really complicate Lloyd's mission, don't they?
They really do. Garden seems to operate completely outside the reach of Westphalian intelligence, WISE, and the Ostanian SSS. They're ultra-secretive, often targeting corrupt, high-ranking Ostanian officials. Sort of a brutal vigilante justice.
Another hidden layer of danger.
Exactly. It highlights that power in this society isn't neat or centralized. It operates on multiple hidden, competing levels. Twilight isn't just dodging the secret police. He's constantly trying to navigate these other unknown, dangerous players who have their own rules he can't possibly predict.
And this is where we can really ground the fiction firmly in history. Our sources confirm the whole geopolitical setup is openly, deliberately modeled on Cold War era Germany. We're talking 1960s, maybe 1970s. The creator, Tatsuya Endo, used fictional names, Ostania, Westalis, Berlin, probably for creative freedom, but the feeling, the atmosphere of paranoia, that's completely authentic to the era.
You can map it almost one-to-one. Ostania is clearly East Germany, the GDR, Westalis is West Germany, the FRG, and Berlin, the divided capital city, the epicenter of all the spying. That's Berlin, the original capital of spies after World War II.
So the environment Lloyd is operating in, it's based on documented reality. I mean, we're talking about real clandestine operations like Operation Gold.
Oh yeah, the tunnel.
Right, where the Allies built this unbelievable 450-meter tunnel under the border just to tap Soviet military phone lines. That kind of high-stakes, frankly bizarre espionage is the real historical context that fuels Operation Strix.
And yet, within this very rigid, realistic, paranoid framework, we have Anya, the telepath, which it raises a really interesting question for you, the listener. Why?
Yeah.
Why introduce this supernatural element when the creator went to such length to ground everything else in real historical paranoia?
Yeah, that feels like the one big break from reality, but you're suggesting it's actually rooted in the same paranoia.
Precisely. The Cold War wasn't just about missiles and spies hiding microfilm, It was also about this psychic arms race. Both the U.S. and the Soviets poured resources into secret research on paranormal abilities.
Really?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
They were fueled by the fear that the other side was developing psychic spies or even psychic weapons. Think about the U.S. government's Project Stargate. It seriously investigated things like ESP, psychokinesis, remote viewing, all for intelligence gathering.
Wow. Okay. So Anya's telepathy, which we learn resulted from some secret government experiment she escaped from. It's actually a surprisingly plausible product of that same Cold War scientific paranoia. She embodies the era's most far-fetched but real fears.
It links her dark origin story directly to the political setting. She isn't just like magic for the sake of it. Her trauma was literally engineered by the state or state. And this is a really crucial pivot point in the narrative because it brings us to what the creator's true intention might have been.
This is fascinating because the creator, Tatsuya Endo, he's known for much darker stuff, right?
Yeah.
Like that assassin story, Tista. Our sources actually revealed he was given this really explicit, almost funny editorial instruction. He was essentially banned from drawing anything dark and told he had to create a bright and cheerful manga.
And that constraint, that mandate, might just be the key to the show's unique genius. Endo himself admitted his original core theme wasn't really espionage, it was the concept of lies. So the high-stakes, historically grounded spy framework Operation Strix. It became this elaborate, maybe even mandatory stage for what is fundamentally a character-driven family comedy. It's a family comedy elevated by the spy genre, not really a spy story diluted by comedy.
That completely reframes the mission, doesn't it? It suggests it's not ultimately about Lloyd finding Desmond. It's more about the emotional pressure cooker this situation creates for Lloyd, Yor, and Anya. And if we look at the main characters through that lens, well, they're all basically emotional casualties of war in the state, aren't they?
They really are. Consider their psychological wounds. Lloyd, a war orphan who became a spy specifically, he says, to build a world where children don't have to cry. He completely suppresses his own identity for the mission.
Yeah.
Warda, also orphaned by war, forced into becoming an assassin just to survive. It left her profoundly isolated, feeling totally alienated from what she thinks of as normal life.
And then there's Anya, the supposed vessel of truth, but she's an escaped test subject. Traumatized by painful experiments, constantly terrified of being abandoned again, a fear she can actually read in her adoptive parents' subconscious thoughts, which must be terrifying.
Even the family dog, Bond. He's another survivor of experiments, a precognitive test subject. They're fundamentally broken individuals, all of them, thrown together by this elaborate lie, all desperately seeking some kind of stability.
And this is the heart of it. That strategic deception becomes this accidental, almost profound therapeutic process for them. Lloyd, the master of disguise who thought he'd discarded his humanity, starts to genuinely value these quiet moments of domestic peace.
Right. And Yor finds a real anchor in the normalcy she craved, even if it's fake normalcy. Anya finally gets the stable, loving home she was always denied. They start out meticulously performing their roles, but gradually, almost without realizing it, they start to embrace them genuinely.
That shift is really what makes the series so compelling, I think. It masterfully juxtaposes Lloyd's big, overarching goal geopolitical piece, preventing war between nations, with the small, quiet, but incredibly powerful domestic piece he starts finding in these everyday moments with his fake wife and daughter. The story subtly suggests that maybe the global tranquility he seeks actually begins right there in his own living room.
It ties back perfectly to the series' opening line, which basically defines the whole conflict. Everyone has a secret self they don't show to other people. The Forgers are just the most extreme version of that constant performance. And this is where Anya's telepathy becomes so crucial. It acts as the narrative's central pivot point, and maybe even its moral compass.
She's the only one who knows the truth, right? The sole vessel of truth, privy to all their darkest, most complicated inner thoughts. Lloyd's cold spy calculations, Yor's, well, murderous urges sometimes. Okay. But because she's a child, her innocence and her limited understanding of the world lead her to these hilarious misinterpretations of their grim internal monologues. And that collision between the grim reality in their heads and Anya's often cheerful misunderstanding, that's the main engine driving the series comedy.
Absolutely. And if we zoom out, connect this to the bigger picture, the series becomes this powerful argument for the found family. It resonates really deeply with that Japanese cultural concept of kizuna. You know, those profound bonds between people that aren't based on blood.
Right, bonds forged through shared experience and mutual emotional support.
Exactly. By taking very contemporary anxieties like the pressure for work-life balance, the exhaustion of keeping up a perfect public face, the modern feeling of constant surveillance.
Which echoes the Stasi stuff.
Totally. By packaging all that in this very stylish, allegory-rich, Cold War chic aesthetic, it lets us explore modern life from a kind of safe, yet really insightful distance.
So the series doesn't just critique the old nuclear family ideal, it kind of reimagines it, arguing that a true family is maybe more like a functional partnership, a contract of the heart built on vulnerability and support, not just genetics.
Well put, a contract of the heart.
So we've seen how Operation Strix is way more than just a complicated spy plot. It uses the genuine historical paranoia of the Cold War as this high-pressure stage where identity itself can be broken down and then maybe genuinely rebuilt. The result is this amazing story where the biggest lie becomes the only path to the most honest truth for these characters.
Indeed. It sort of proves that the bonds you forge under the most intense pressure, even through necessity and deception, can ultimately become stronger, more real than anything based purely on blood ties or social convention.
So here's something to think about, a final provocative thought for you. In our world today, which is increasingly saturated with digital surveillance, a kind of modern echo of the Stasi or the SSS is the idea of a family where everyone has these carefully guarded secrets, but still manages to find genuine love and connection. Is that just a necessary fantasy? Or maybe it's a kind of a pragmatic modern survival guide. What do you think stands out as the most powerful lie they tell?